What's up, everyone? Welcome to DeFi Digs. Today we're going to take a look at options strategy vaults. These are things like covered calls and cash secured puts, but done through protocols that actually kind of automate that process for you, so you don't have to go into the kind of underlying option protocol and do it yourself. There's a number of these that have popped up over the last few months. We're going to look at it through the lens of Friktion, just because I've used that one the most, and they just released a new update that has some really cool kind of analytics stuff. But there are many other ones. You have Katana, Theta Nuts, Ribbon, which is a popular one. I think there's some others as well. But again, we're just going to look at it through Friktion. I'm going to use a graph on a protocol called Lyra just to kind of visualize stuff as well. Before we dig in, nothing in this video is financial advice. This video is for educational purposes only. Make sure you guys are doing your own research. Let's dig into it. So I'm not an options expert, but I do enjoy using these strategies because they are fitting to kind of various market conditions, not just, up only bull runs, but sideways to bearish conditions as well. They do provide nice opportunities to sort of hedge various longs or other positions, and then also give you a chance to earn on some assets that are a little bit more challenging to find high yield on. So, your Bitcoins, your ETHs, your Solanas, etc. So before I kind of dig into what's actually happening with the strategies, let's just cover off on these vaults, or the volts as Friktion calls them. So the Volt focuses on income generation strategies running automated cover call selling programs. So you deposit these assets into this Volt, and then the Volt is essentially going to sell covered calls for all the depositors automatically. Once deposited, the funds are deployed into the current epoch, which lasts for usually a week, sometimes 2 weeks, depending on the strategy. The deposits and any yield that you gain from this are auto-compounded on a weekly basis. And then the expiries and strike prices are determined algorithmically, to just try and maximize and kind of automate the strategy, so you don't have to do a lot of that thinking. You just let the algorithms do it for you. Lyra is an options trading protocol that is built on top of Optimism, and I'm just going to use it to sort of use the graph that they show to kind of visualize. I'm a visual person, so hopefully it helps you, but this really helped me when I was first learning this stuff. So in this example, we're going to use it to simulate what one of these vaults might do. So we'll take this ETH vault, for example. When I click into it, the current ETH price, 3,095, it has a 36.50 strike price and an expiry date of April 14th. So as long as the price of ETH stays below this strike price by this expiration date, then this vault will generate yield. And to visualize that, we'll take sort of a similar contract. In this one, we are selling this covered call. We deposit however much ETH we want, and then we will receive the premium of 1946 per contract if ETH stays below the strike price. So the chart that I wanted to show you is over here. This represents, you can see the ETH price there at the top. So as long as ETH stays below the strike price of 3,400, you'll notice that we make that premium of 1946. Once Ethereum starts going above that, then we start to take a loss. So you would only want to do this strategy really if you were hedging something, or if you thought ETH was going to basically trade sideways or down, or maybe slightly up, depending on the call or depending on the strike price. It is worth noting that you deposit ETH into the covered calls, and so you're not going to lose your entire position, but the value of your ETH will also go up. So while you won't generate more ETH, your total dollar value will sort of mitigate some of your losses. And the video here at the top, which I'm not going to show, kind of walks through that a little bit more. So I would recommend checking that out. Now, the other strategy that Friktion uses is cash secured puts. And this is actually a stablecoin strategy, basically. In the case of covered calls, you deposit the asset itself. So, ETH in this pool, Saber in this pool, but on the cash secured puts, you actually deposit a stablecoin. So everything works in the same way, but you would just deposit a stablecoin instead of the asset. And then kind of on the flip side, instead of wanting the asset to not go up, you basically don't want it to go down. So if we take a similar example and we do we do this example here, as long as ETH stays above our strike price, $2,700 strike price, then we capture that premium of 55.18 in this case. If it goes down, then we start to net a loss there. So it's sort of the opposite of a covered call, except you're using stablecoins instead of the asset itself. Since these are using stablecoins, there's, I think, a lot of opportunities out there. It's pretty easy to find, 15-20% yield on your stablecoins using something like Anchor or any number of kind of newer protocols, Platypus, whatever. So for me, this has to be kind of handedly above 20% to also account for the downside risk that generally Anchor or Platypus or the other stablecoin farms don't have. So I don't use these ones as much, but they are useful, and some of them do have pretty good yield. So let's cover off on how to actually deposit and withdraw from these vaults. I'll just kind of do a little test walkthrough. So we'll use this Sol vault. In order to deposit, you just click on the vault you want. You deposit the amount you want. We'll do a massive 0.2 Sol. Deposit that. Your wallet's going to come up. Obviously, you need to approve the transaction. And then the information here shows the current epoch. So in order for you to enter, you need to wait until this epoch ends, and you're basically put into a queue. So now I'm sort of into a queue, and in the next epoch, my position will get created, and then I'll be kind of locked into that one until that epoch ends. You won't know what your option strike price and expiry are until the epoch begins, and that's just kind of to prevent front running and whatnot, which kind of makes sense. So this one was $151 call of the expiry of April 14th, which is tomorrow. So as long as Sol stays below 151 by tomorrow, then this will make money. So this is looking pretty good here. When you want to withdraw, you just go to the withdraw tab, put in the amount that you want to withdraw, and then similarly to the deposit, that's sort of going to queue up your withdrawal. So if I were in this epoch, I would hit withdraw, and then when this timer runs out, my Sol and whatever rewards that I had for being in this strategy would be claimable at that point, and I could just pull my funds back out. There is something kind of cool. When you deposit, you will receive another token called a Volt token, and this just sort of, just like an LP token, represents your share of the vault. You potentially down the line will be able to use that in kind of other yield generating strategies, which is pretty cool. I haven't seen any of those yet, but just keep that in mind. You will have the option to sort of withdraw a Volt token that you might see in your wallet, but that will come out once you actually withdraw your position, because that's what represents your position in the vault. The cash secured puts are basically the same exact thing, except you're going to just be depositing a stablecoin, and the stablecoins on these pools are all different. So this one is USDC, the Luna one is UST. So depending on what stablecoin you hold, you kind of have an option, a few options there to choose from. They also recently released Crab strategy, which I'm not going to dig into too much because it does use another protocol called Entropy, and that's sort of probably a topic for another video. But the gist of this is basically trying to generate some yield off of just sideways market conditions. So if you think that the market conditions are going to just trade sideways, this might be a good strategy for you to consider. I have personally not used this strategy yet, but the example that they give here is with Bitcoin. You deposit a stablecoin, and then as long as the price of Bitcoin stays between 39,194 and 43,112, you'll be generating an annual yield of about 58.7% in this example. And it looks like this is the only one that's currently active in the crab strategy. The analytics section is super cool. One of the reasons why I use Friktion, actually. So it is important to note that the APY that you're seeing here does not actually account for any losses that these strategies have endured. So if there was an epoch where there wasn't any yield generated, that would just basically count as a 0% for the purpose of this number here. But if you want to get a more granular look at it, you can go to the analytics section. They have all of the vaults for the cash secured puts and the covered calls, and you can kind of dig into them. So if we look at the Luna one here, we can scroll down into a ton of information here. It's pretty awesome, but we can scroll down into the yield since inception, which is about 14% annualized. And then this chart up here, which I really like, is showing basically all of the epochs and whether they ended above or below. So you can see out of all these epochs going back to the beginning of the year, there were only one right here where the price ended above the strike price. So this one would not have been in the green. And then maybe this one as well was super close. It is also a European options, so the options can only be exercised at the end of the epoch, as opposed to American option style, which can be exercised at any point before the expiry date. They also have vault performances down here, just showing you kind of how they've done for each individual epoch. So it looks like there was two that were not in the green, but the majority of the rest of them have all been positive yield. Last two bits that I'm not really going to cover off much on are circuits. Circuits is basically a DAO management tool, so it's specifically for DAOs and treasuries, which is pretty cool. I don't know too much about this. I don't manage a treasury, so I haven't looked into it too much, but a kind of cool thing that they're building out. And then they have pretty decent documentation, so poke around in there. There is no token currently, but it's supposed to come out soon, so nothing to cover on the token front. That wraps us up for Friktion. If you guys found the video helpful, please consider giving it a like or subscribing. If there's anything I missed, or if there's anything else you want to see in the future, go ahead and sound off in the comments, or you can hit me on Twitter at DeFi Digs. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.